Welcome to adding and subtracting rational expressions. Let's begin. So we want to answer, what do we need in order to add and subtract rationals? So when we add and subtract rationals, remember rationals are a polynomial over a polynomial. So now we're going to be adding or subtracting them instead of multiplying and dividing. So a rational plus or minus another rational. You have to still factor first. Okay, that's still the first step. But now we want to find a common denominator, because when we add and subtract fractions, they need common denominators. So you have to have this in order to add and subtract rationals. This is really important. Then add or subtract the numerator only and simplify. So let's do two examples. So remember, the first step in adding rationals would be to factor. So I'm going to factor. I can't factor x plus 1, but I can factor out a 3 on the bottom. 5 is simplified, but I can factor here. Let's see. This one would be minus 3 and minus 2. Now I want to look for the common denominator. So I have a 3 and an x minus 3 over here. On the right side I have an x minus 3 and an x minus 2. So what this is missing is a 3. So I'm going to multiply by 3 on both sides. And then on the left I would need an x minus 2. So now the denominators are the same. They both have a 3, they both have an x minus 3, and they both have an x minus 2. Now I'm going to put them all together. So I have x minus 2 times x plus 1 up here, so I have to FOIL that. So that's x squared minus x minus 2, and then my common denominator, plus 3 times 5 is 15, and then the common denominator. And you probably want to order them so they're the same, but I didn't. It doesn't really matter. All right, so then the next step is to add the numerator. So that means I have x squared minus x minus 2 plus 15, and it's written with one denominator, the common denominator on the bottom. So it's written as one fraction, or one rational. We add it up the top. And then the last step is just to simplify on the numerator. So I can do minus 2 plus 15. So my final answer is x squared minus x plus 13 over 3 times x minus 2 times x minus 3. If you need to go back and rewatch the steps, definitely do so. All right, so now let's subtract the rationals. Remember, first step is to factor. You only factor out what you can. X plus 1 is already simplified. And over here, x plus 5 is simplified. All right, so second step, find that common denominator. This example was like the previous one. We got a 3 and an x minus 3. We have an x minus 3 and an x minus 2. So this side over here is missing the x minus 2, and you have to multiply to the numerator and the denominator. And then this is missing a 3. Now we're going to put it together, so we have to do x minus 2 times x plus 1. So that would be x squared minus x minus 2 over that new common denominator we have. And then minus, this is where it gets a little bit tricky, we have 3x plus 15, because we're multiplying the 3 just to the x and the 5. We're kind of ignoring the subtraction for now. So I have the parentheses, but you don't need them if you don't want them. And we still have that common denominator. Now we will subtract the numerator. So I've got x squared, we're going to put them all together, x squared minus x minus 2, and then you've got to be careful when you're subtracting, we have to distribute that negative sign. That's why I like the parentheses there. So then minus 3x minus 15 over our common denominator. And then we're just going to simplify from here. So I've got an x squared, minus x and minus 3x would be minus 4x, minus 2 and minus 15 is minus 17. Sorry for the vowel. And then over our common denominator again. So go back as needed if you need to see the steps. But remember, you always start it by factoring. You must have a common denominator, whether you're adding or subtracting. Then add or subtract the numerator. Be careful with distributing that negative if you're subtracting. Simplify and make sure it's all under the same common denominator. Don't forget to answer the essential questions in your summary. That's it for now. Bye.